Holy heck, holy heck, holy heck. It's Friday. Welcome to another edition of XFeed. What's up? My name's The Schiller, and you might be looking at the outfit today and being like, is this guy feeling all right? You know what I mean? Like, are they actually feeling okay? We're wearing the board bucket hat. We got a normal t-shirt on. Like, that's not fancy or anything, but little did you know, we're actually cosplaying as an Azuki Elemental Fisherman Bucket Hack NFT. Thoughts? Not bad. All right, let's get into the news of the day. Holy shiza, we're really dying, boys. Have you seen Ethereum 24-hour revenue drops below $100,000? Pulse X is doing better. It's going to be tough out there. We'll see what happens with all this goodies. But yeah, man, Ethereum, it feels like there's definitely a whole shift. I think everybody's like in agreement that there's going to be a lot of things that are built around and on Ethereum. But it seems that, the excitement that we had back in the NFT craze is just a little bit lesser. And I'm Tolly. What's up, dude? How are we? We talked about it yesterday with Matty B, but just in Van Eck to launch crypto ETF node, in quotes, on May 14th, investing in 30 to 60 digital asset related stocks. So, I mean, only really thought with this is imagine when the big players come into the space. I know I always bring up the reference of like compare the Ethereum crypto market cap to Home Depot. We could do this for a whole slew of things, but think of everything as well that's outside of like a top 100 coin right now that has a whole bunch of things that are building and actually being involved with something that people want. Because you go down the list of the top 100 cryptos and you could still probably be like, for most of them, this doesn't make sense. I've never heard of this, or what exactly is the value behind it. So we'll see. Or maybe it's like the NFT hit piece that we saw the other day and everything is just simply vaporware. These RuneScape peeps are getting out of control. So if you haven't seen, RuneScape launched a new game that is really taking the world by storm in terms of gamers. A lot of big personalities are out there covering the game, and Jake Lucky was out giving out codes, and somebody sent a screenshot to him that showed that this specific individual has played 784 days, 11 hours, and 30 minutes of a game within like a 3,499 day period. So when people talk about crypto gaming potentially being huge and ignoring macro sentiments, etc., remember, people are addicted to games, and I'm absolutely loving Cambria. We had a quick stream yesterday where we played a little bit of Cambria with Matty B. We're going to have him on again, but I don't know. It's weird. Doing the games, it's like, unless you're like high level or doing something like interesting, I feel like it's not necessarily a great watch in terms of that. So might have him on to do more of the X feed or just other things. But if you guys checked out the stream yesterday, I hope you enjoyed it. And speaking of play Cambria, these are the questions we have to ask. Are games going to get easier to make? Cambria, it's a pixelated world. And you have to have an artist, potentially one, potentially several, out developing these worlds. Or can you use AI to assist things? And for Altered State, they have a generator where you can put in an avatar, you can put in any 2D image, and it will actually create a 3D one here. So I took the character that I have within Cambria, and it spat out these images. Now, there's a texture feature, and so you might be like, well, hold on, that top one looks kind of weird. You can like resubmit that image, and then it will try to lace that visual over the rest of the character. And then I also tried using their coins, and it spat out a robot with like a fountain next to it. And then for their cover photo, it had like a full stone statue, which I think actually looks really, really cool and almost gives the vibes of Harry Potter in the last one when they do like pure totem motive, whatever that is. You guys know what I'm talking about. Moonbird Story Guide. We're hearing some news about Moonbirds. What in the halibut is this? The official Moonbirds Guide is more than lore. It's a world-building tool for creators, storytelling, collectors. It's beautifully illustrated and packed with purpose. Why the guide exists? Consistency. The guide exists to give Moonbird's universe a cohesive tone, theme, and style. It helps creators build within the same narrative. Okay, so it's got the origin of Moonbirds, the emergence of mythics, the chaos of oddities. Who is it for? Writers, artists, animators. The theme, mysterious. Okay, so I think this is supposed to just help people, but it feels I don't know. I feel like this is kind of like odd. Is reading this from somebody that's on the outside that's not really followed Moonbirds at all. It's like, is this like now Jenkins of LA type of story writing that we're going with, or is this just to let people know if you're doing any kind of creative stuff whatsoever with Moonbirds, this is something you can take advantage of? That I've I don't really know. Drew Austin, I'm so tired of chain wars. I think they are the dumbest shit ever. So when we talk about like chain wars, it's a weird perspective because we love negativity out there, right? Like positivity is something that's super infectious, and anytime something's going really well, we all want to see what it is, right? Like when Bitcoin was going crazy the other day, I was like, oh my God, what is this? Jumped into it, seen it. I saw people talking about Cambria. I'm like, oh my God, okay, what is this? And for a long time, I was kind of avoiding trying new things within the space for a little bit, just being like, all right, I'm going to focus on what I'm interested in. We already have huge knowledge about this, so I really want to go and learn what something else is. And 9 times out of 10, there's a reason to not go and do something, but for that 1%, when there's actually something cool, and you don't need to go and test out everything within a certain chain, but if there's a game you think looks all right, if there's an application of some sort that you think is cool, I mean, we could go down the list and see different things that have been good and bad. But I think ultimately a lot of people just are kind of stuck in whatever they're interested in. And so we have a lot of negativity around certain things when that really shouldn't be the case. So it is kind of stupid, but I also understand the rationale behind it. Pudgy Penguins X, is this latte load? I have no idea how to pronounce that, to be totally frank. We are excited to announce that we will be working with Lot, a retail and entertainment conglomerate, to bring Pudgy Penguins to South Korea through a limited edition collectible release. More information below. So I'm going to assume this is strictly a physical one, not a digital. Looks like there's going to be ice cream associated in some part with that. Maybe they got some stores coming out. But either way, cool to see the Pudgy Penguins continuously get those look like Canadian RCMP officers, but in blue and pink instead of red. Huh. Okay, I was not expecting that. And then we have the far, far away looking castle, Pudgy and Bellyland, available in the Pudgy Penguin shop. All right, I have no idea what Bellyland is, but sounds like a pretty big deal either way. Some unfortunate news here, but of course, we got to give you security reminders. I lost everything today, says Savvy D. I received an opportunity to speak on a podcast about healing mental health and Web3. A week plus of conversation, cross-checking everything I could with other social media, including LinkedIn. Everything checked out. Went on to a multicast streaming software platform they said we would be using. Now everything is gone. My ETH, my Good Vibes Club, my V-Friends, Bearish, my tiny dinos, everything. Please, please, please be careful. Everyone, it's getting more sophisticated. Do not click links no matter what. Trust your gut instinct. Sometimes even research isn't enough. So this is a huge problem within the space. Like, if you're a notable individual, and even not, because we've saw people of all sorts of followings have situations that are scams, right? And I would make the argument that the most valuable thing in Web3, arguably, if you're a builder right now or somebody, is having a reputation that's positive and trustworthy, and even the basic capacities. Because now you have the problem of these new people that are, oh, hey, we're given these opportunities, this is exciting and whatnot, but unless you have that like long-standing track record with people, and then even then, right, we still say you got to watch out. But people that have been here like a very, very long time, that track record, it's so invaluable at a point like this. It also comes to the conversations around what can these AI agents do to help prevent such situations? Is that even possible? Do they have the capabilities? That's something that we're wanting to look for. Yo, OXBF, what's going on? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, so think, this is a demo, because one of my biggest questions about this was how the hell does this ultimately work? And I've been following what's going on with the Think protocol. We've highlighted different components of it. I've listened to one of their spaces the other day, and they basically, well, Jesse said one that it sounded, or he viewed the mint next week more as like a token pre-sale. The Think Tank is coming out in July, which is their staking platform, but you'll get automatically staked if you obviously mint through this perspective. And they were making like a passive comment about how they think that it would be coming out at like about 100 mils. So if you were the first person to mint, your mint is free. Because it's like a reverse system where the first mint, you get like 5,000 Think tokens, and then it goes 4999 and then 4998 and like that all the way down. And then it's like a flat rate at a certain point. There's a lot of things. I'm not sure exactly how to approach the mint. For anybody that's not familiar as well, there is the ASTO token from Featureverse. In that partnership, those tokens are getting swapped in to Think token. But we're not going to watch this whole video, but this is one of the AI agents. Let's see if we're impressed. Here's one of their demos.
John, so Souls, you kind of want to give a high level or anything, or just jump right in?
I guess the only caveat to say is I can't remember who it was earlier at the start of the call said we're going to show a beta. This is not a beta. There's a distinction. This is a pre-release, so it is not feature complete. So like we have some items that are being worked on in feature branches. So you're going to see pieces, but you're not going to see 100% of it. We want to make that clear.
All right, great.
All right, so let's do it. So this is kind of our UI for Souls currently. Zach crushed it on this, I think. So what I'm going to show is a couple different kind of workflows. So first we're going to work with like an MCP tool. So
one thing as well that I'm a little bit confused about this is from the verbiage, it sounded like this is available on Mac and they're still working on the PC variation, where usually for a lot of these things, it's like PC and Mac, not at all. So if you have a Mac, this is really good. If you have a PC, I think we need clarification on like how far away that is.
And you don't really have to know the term MCPs. That's kind of the whole point of this, is abstracting away the technicality of it. So I can just say, what's the current price of ETH, right? And now, see, you can tell, it found it grabbed one of its tools for getting token prices. It looked up the price. It gave it back to us, right? How about
And what's the thing that just popped in from the right?
Yeah. Well, so this is what's kind of cool, I think, about what we're doing that I haven't seen anywhere else. So a lot of LLM interfaces, they'll have some sort of canvas where you're seeing code and stuff. We kind of took that to a literal interpretation, and we just made like a drawable canvas over here. This is TL Draw, an open source project. And what's cool about this is, so if I go make a new chat, and now I'm going to say, let's say, tell me some fun facts about Uranus. Me and Mike were talking about this earlier. So it's going to do a web search. Okay, great. So we got it. We got some of that. So you can see it's all now this is kind of in a debug mode. So I doubt we will see this type of detail when we ship the beta, but this is kind of helpful to see like kind of what's happening under the hood, like how it's doing what it's doing. But what's cool about this, so like, let's say I want to remember that Uranus stuff. So I can just, wow, that gave me way more than I was expecting. I think there was an image that got shoved in there. So yeah, still in progress. But like, let's say we did only get the piece that we see. It gave me the tool call in there too. So this is what we're working on. But let's say we just paste that in here, and we can drag. If we're generating images, if we're generating 3D content, like all of the stuff that we see with our chat interface here, we can pull into this canvas.
And now that's kind of in your knowledge base, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what's kind of cool about it is, so this is a feature I can't show off today, but we are building, and we have it somewhat working, but we're getting close on a feature where the canvas is like a two-way communication. Basically, think of it as the memory or the diary for the agent for that chat. So like if I drag a document in here, if I drag an image in here, I can ask the AI about it, and it can respond in chat in text. But if it makes more sense to respond,
so far, I mean, I'm just giving like initial reactions. This platform looks like it's like ChatGPT, but just has more capabilities.
With an image or a flowchart or something, it can respond by interacting.
So you're working with your agent in the canvas.
Yeah, exactly. And like one of the things when we were like road mapping, like we don't have a engineering spec for this, but we have a feasibility on it, is getting your agent and another agent to be able to work on the same canvas together, remotely, right? So you could create like a community canvas for some affinity group, or for a company, you could have a project page or something.
So like, let me set this up a little bit, because what I did with Canvas is like, I have all these PDFs from like advertisers, Cloud Hopkins and all these different old school advertisers, and that's kind of my background. And the way that I built the agent was I literally just dragged PDFs into Canvas, right? And then And all of a sudden I can talk to that data. So now it's like the quickest way to make an agent for like normal people is, can you drag in documents? Great. Drag them into the canvas and then you can talk to them over here. And what I'm excited.
So that's good, but I guess like at the same time, like theoretically you could like copy and paste everything from certain PDFs and then you would get an answer from it. But this looks like it's going to be working with you on developing it out more.
About is like, let's say Felix and I are doing a campaign. All of a sudden I can share that agent with Felix and now he can also use the agent that I've been using to write all of our creative campaigns, right? And then all of a sudden I can start to go like, well, I want to charge for that. And all of a sudden I can earn Think by letting people use my agents. And so John, you were saying like you look up facts on Uranus, right? And then you drag that over to your space.
Yeah.
Like what other kind of stuff can you do?
Yeah. So let's keep going with that. All right. So let's say, you know, we're just getting really into space today. Like, you know, me and Mike do when we go for walks sometimes. Maybe Mike wants to like get into web development a bit. So now we're going to, well, first we kind of need some content, right? So let's say like, tell me a short story about Uranus, but this time speak it to me instead of typing. Okay. Now we'll see how well we do here. Of them that we just put in. I think it's writing a longer story than I wanted it to.
Uranus's
There we go.
brought about subtle changes. From his tilted view, he began to notice the beauty of the surrounding space.
Right. So I mean that's kind of a fun. This is not a polished feature yet, obviously, but it's kind of fun to show that like it can talk. It doesn't just have to type, right? And we're also working on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and imagine that it can also move around and it's your avatar, and then in a couple of years you get a robot and you can have it kind of send commands to that, right?
Exactly. So all of a sudden,
So
now, go ahead, Felix.
This story that it's narrating, it's going to keep that in its memory because it's not written in the thread. It's not in the canvas visually. Like, where does that end up from a memory perspective?
Well, that's a good question, because currently it is ephemeral, because that's a feature we just
what have you
added
guys
yesterday.
thinking
So
so far? It's my
not
first
being
time watching
the
it.
roadmap answer though is the text transcript is still saved, even though we didn't see it rendered in the view. It's still saved in that chat history for that chat.
So you
and the
could
chat
just like
history and
unscroll
the
it if
canvas
you,
are tied together too. So anything in either of those will load together.
So we've seen this agent be able to, you just put a natural language into it. And in one case, it goes in it finds information on the internet about the price of ETH. And then you have another one where it's taking and it hears that you say talking and it's inferring what you want from that, pulling in the right tool and actually doing it. And then in the other case, you showed how you could put something over on the creative canvas and it's almost like a whiteboard that both you and your agent can both read from or write to. And so now it's much more than just text. It's actually media and visual space. And I mean, in our own minds, we've got our Visio, I think it's called like the visual cortex, has like when you close your eyes, if you see something, right? Like that's how your internal conscious systems are able to like coordinate when you're working with your agent.
So there's still like another 10 minutes of that video. We're not going to go through all of it, but there's kind of an idea for Think Again. This is something I have no idea how to approach this mint. I know that for having like an ASM brain, Featureverse is covering an agent for us, and that's coming out, I think, in June. But they also said that like the agents themselves are going to cost like $50, where this is originally like a pretty heftier mint, but you have the art with it. You have the early access to the think tank, which the conversation around that, all the question is basically like, is it early access to the think tank where you're able to stake Think like 2 months ahead of time? Or is it exclusively only available for the first agents? Because if it's only exclusive ever, and I saw Kona Road mentioned the other day from listening to something where there's going to be standard staking that's coming. But if you look at like Think, the way that they worded one of their posts, and Armando, what's going on? Where the hell is it? Sneak peek. No, not this. They reposted. Yeah, this thing. So it says early access to Think Tank staking features, right? Like this is because the original verbiage, like if we're going to compare, right? And again, we're being like painfully scrutinizing here, right? But like it's not even mentioned on this first thing when it was like, it feels like it's the main thing to mint, because otherwise, right, for those that are in the know, you could probably just go with Asto, but then you have like a month or two of early access to these agents if you think that it's worth it. Money Mitch, what's up? I'm going to mint, but also FUD it so less people mint and supply is lower. Well, that's the question, right? Because if this is something that ends up getting like super good, 50 Newt, 1939. Thank you. Coming through. Apologies being a little bit late noticing that. Absolute legend. But that was one of the conversations because I'm trying to think back to the one with Jesse because he was on, it was like Jesus. He's the guy's name for the space. And he made like a whole bunch of comments regarding it that I thought was like interesting, but it felt like it didn't necessarily sell it more. Hold on, I'm trying to find, because I posted this the other day. Can I do like a from? Is that even... I'm going to have to just scroll back, son of a gun. Sorry, 2 seconds. Okay, so the TLDR from it is that the think tank is in July, right? So the staking for that is coming in July, being fully live. However, if you mint now, that you are going to have your tokens pre-staked. The token generating event is next month. There was it was implied that it was potentially coming out at 100 mil market cap, and that the fact that if you're one of the first minters that it's free, but obviously it degrades over time. The agents for everybody will be $50, and then next week mint is more of a token pre-sale. The conversation was really, really good. He was on for about like 45 minutes with it, but I don't know. I feel like extremely torn. Like usually I'm pretty like 100% of like this, that, and the other thing. But knowing that we're going to get a free one and that they're $50, okay, so you're buying the art. That's cool. You're getting the potentially 10,000 think with it, but it's a 10% chance. So it is kind of low. But if you hit that, all right, awesome. And the fact that you have the early access and potentially whatever else comes for like the first within there. But I think that, yeah, it's one of the questions of like, you look around for every single collection that's out there. How valuable is the first of whatever? We have that perceived. This is going to be something that's more, maybe the speculation takes it there, but when we look at all of them, do we say, all right, like the value's there in the first, or is it something where if you were one of the first minters and when things were happening or early access extra drops, maybe in a way to word that earlier on, then it ends up being worthwhile. Young Algae, what's going on? Does everyone get think tokens for minting? What the 10% chance for? Yeah, so it starts out at 5,000. If you're the very first minter, plus the 10% chance. Everybody's got that plus 10% chance for 10,000. But then once it hits, I want to say 5,000 mints, I think once it's 5,000 mints, it goes to a flat rate of 2,500 think. And so if I don't know if I have this, think. Okay, we do. Hold on. All right, we're just gonna do this live because I've been like messing around with this in my head like a whole bunch because I'm like I don't know what to think. So we're gonna take the 0.27 as an example here. Okay, so if we do 0.27, what is the project value of 5,000 think? Well, that's the question. Because that would put that at 10 cents, right? So if we take 0.27, you're getting basically 50,000 ASTO. Okay. So if we calculate that within their calculator of how much that would be, you would get 13,870. So if we do 13,870, right? And let's just say that it actually does come out at 10 cents, that's like 1,300. So for $429, assuming that 100 mil is correct, which, I mean, look at the market. That's, holy moly, right? But like this would be what you're getting. Now, this changes if ASTO goes up, but this is just because of where like ASTO is right now. So in theory, if all that happens with the token generating event, again, not being until next month, right? So you're minted now, have this, what happens in between? This is ultimately the question. And something that I've kept asking, because I know, Algie, you were posting about when people were originally selling some fluffs, wanting to get the agents. And I think you said you thought that it would age badly. And I'm kind of in agreement with it. But I also think that, depending on like if you're allocating towards the token, then that actually might not be bad, depending on everything else, depending if you want feature score, which, Think has the same concept as Vortex, where they've said that the other protocols and things and marketing budgets are going to go from other teams into people that are staking here. So they're going to allocate tokens. And that's kind of the same concept with Vortex, that other builders that are coming onto the network are going to feed in their tokens for Vortex. Now, the argumentative side of that would be, okay, well, there's been nothing that's been added to Vortex apart from the traditional tokens that were already on the network. So how quickly does that happen for Think? And then further to that is, if Think is very, very successful, it's attached to Root. Maybe it's connected within Silo here. We're still trying to see all the ends, bobs, and weaves of all of this. What does that do for the ecosystem as a whole? And then further to that is the people that have a whole lot of Asto, if this ends up bringing back liquidity, people have capital, they want to spend again, what does that do on the trickle-down effect for the NFTs, for Silo, for Root, etc.? We saw Root take up kind of an upswing. So I don't know if Think is kind of the catalyst that is going to start these things. Because I know for Alex and the team, they were talking about a huge influx of people after ETH Denver, that we had the assumption that that was going to be because of Think. Now, I would come to believe that it feels more like that Candy Digital announcement was where that crowd was, and it just happened to be the same time as that ETH Denver Think talk. So I don't know. We can do with that what you will. But there's kind of a little bit of my personal breakdown on that, where I'm like, the early access is cool. I want to use the agents, but does it make sense right now from a price standpoint? I'm not 100% certain. But JG showing off their Reebok kicks. They were one of the people that won one of the one-of-ones. I actually think these look really, really good. So, awesome, and congrats to them for the cactus shoe here that I guess was using one of the Third Kingdom lands. So nice to see him. Personally, I have issue with how much they compare themselves to Steve Jobs and Apple while selling agents that sound a lot like Siri. I mean, it's a good point in terms of like questioning certain things, because obviously we've gone through like a whole lot of, ifs, ands, buts from everybody, but it does seem that those guys are very knowledgeable about their specific topics. And then I don't know. Sorry, just to check something right quick. I don't know. It's odd. There's two ways to look at it, right? You can say, all right, it's odd that people are talking like extraordinarily bullish about what they're doing, but then at the same time, you would feel more questioned about their intent if they weren't, right? Like if they don't think, hey, like this is a good product, we have something that could transform the world. Like I get within Web3, there's a lot of hyperbole and things that like people have questions about, but at the same time, like if you don't really believe in what you're doing, like people aren't going to believe you in general. So we'll kind of see. But conviction is something that is all over the place. And I think that we've stopped having convicted bets, right? If you will. And people are kind of wanting to just have a little bit of everything. Because I thought this was an interesting post from Mondog. It says they got 2 ETH that they put into big time. Or sorry, not big time. The big coin. Big coin, not Bitcoin. Big coin on Abstract. And then it went up to 15 ETH. And so with that 15 ETH, which is an insane amount, by the way, they went and put it into like 15 different things. And I feel like if I was sitting on 15 ETH, I don't know if I would go out and buy like 15 different projects. Do you guys feel that you'd be like more concentrated in what you're getting into? Or do you prefer to spread things out that way? 0.27 is kind of high. I'll probably mint one, but then instantly write it off as a loss. Well, I mean, so that's actually, that's a great point, because what's the probability of it ending up in like a flip, right? Do you buy it and then there's enough FOMO and interest where it goes up? Or is it actually better to wait and then people that are like, you know what? Yeah, 0.27 is too high. But then the question comes, well, if these agents have the Think pre-staked, is that account bound? Is that agent bound? How does it work from that perspective? Because I saw other people also comment about how you wouldn't necessarily want to sell your agent because it has all of your data with it. So it feels like there's not actually a point to sell one, but I think you only need one agent. Like it's not something that you need to go out and buy a whole bunch of different ones. It's like once you have one, you'll have it. These different companies will also, and so a part of that conversation on the spaces that I thought was really interesting, and like I use Adobe, right? Like if podcast software, audio software, there's a whole bunch. I mean, we can take any kind of application, but he made a comment about this thing called like MCPs, which I forget what the term stands for. but it was saying, you know, for these specialized agents, I could go into and talk to like the Adobe agent that they launch and say, hey, I'm doing the show. I need this, that, and the other thing. And it would have the option of like explaining it for you or going and doing it. But it would come down to them having like a directed agent. So in theory, we could end up becoming prompt kings and queens. You know what I mean? Where that's kind of what we do for these different gigs. But again, I don't really know how to read this mint. So it'll be interesting. But that's going to be it for this edition of XFeed. Armando, Smack Talk, Money Mitch, Young Algie, M. Tully. I appreciate you guys coming through. And I'm curious, like, do we think this is going to be massive? Is it something where it is like the next Steve Jobs, Armando? That's the question. And that's also where some of the, I guess, speculation comes from, is if this is something that ends up getting really, really big, is it advantageous to have the first edition or the founders? Because for every collections, it's kind of been 50-50 of have those original collections for whatever been worth it. But the thought is, well, if this ends up going and being the biggest thing in the world, well, who knows? But of course, that's us speculating. Mormon should enable buying with credit card. This pulls in new money into crypto from outside the space. Surprised we don't see this more. I agree. And we'll see. Maybe they have something for this, but that's maybe the best point of the week. We got to copyright that. Tweet it out. Let the world know. Young Algie's got it. All right, guys. Appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Enjoy your weekend. Peace.